Hello all, welcome back students. So here we are back with a new and a very small chapter. The content of the chapter is exception handling. Okay. Now why I told you it is a very small chapter, mostly in two videos or three videos this chapter will be over. There is only one major topic or one major programming topic in this chapter which is quite easy to understand, and there are certain theories in this chapter. In this video, we will be trying to discuss the maximum portion of the theory which is there in this chapter. Now, first of all, let me start with this word error. And whenever I am talking about error, I am talking about error with related to Python program. Now, many times we are doing program and it is quite obvious that most of the times we may get an error in our program. Now, first thing is, what is an error? So, you can say an error is a faulty piece of code that prevents normal execution of a computer program, or in our case we can say of a Python program, because we are technically dealing with Python. Okay, I hope everyone understand what is an error. Sometimes we are writing some code and when we are executing that code, we are seeing that some error is coming. That error can be caused by multiple reasons. It can be caused by incorrect syntax. It can be caused by some logical mismatch from our side. It can be caused by, you can say, Python. Maybe Python is not able to accept some values. There can be n number of reasons that we will see in this chapter one by one. But here we are going to first of all discuss what is an error. See, you can have your own definitions. Okay, meaning has to be correct. That what is error? Any faulty code or any bug in our program which does not allow the program to run normally and properly, that is called an error. Very simple to understand. Okay, you can see this is a chapter which is, I think, very general. There is no need to stick to any words. You try to understand the rules. What is error? It is a piece of code. Maybe that piece of code is not written properly. Maybe that piece of code is logically incorrect. Maybe that piece of code has wrong syntax. It can be n number of reasons, but that piece of code does not allow our program to run smoothly and properly. That will be simply called an error. Correct. Now in Python, we have three kinds of errors. Compile time error. Okay. Second, we can have runtime error. And the third one is actually that is the main content of this chapter, exception. Okay. Let me give you a brief overview of all the types of errors with small definitions. Compile time error. I will give you first example so that you understand that what is compile time error. So I am switching over to Python. I am writing something. A equal to 10, or let us say A equal to 17, B equal to 20. Let us say print, and I have intentionally written something. A plus B equal to. Okay, let me write something. Chalo, A plus B. I am definitely sure this will not work. So this is a classic example of compile time error. Now please try to understand. Whenever I am, now first of all, what is the error? In print, P is capital. I hope everyone is understanding. So when I try to run the program, Python does not allow the program to compile. Python does not allow the program to execute. Such kind of errors are thrown even before the program starts working, or even before the program starts executing. This is a classic example of compile time error. And we can give n number of examples. Suppose this is a theory question, write a short note on compile time error. We can literally give n number of examples. Suppose I want to write the sum is A plus B. Will it work? Definitely it will not work because we are without double quotes. So we are almost experts in raising such kind of error. I hope you understand. Such error will not allow the Python program to execute. Such errors will not allow the Python program to run. This is a classic example of compile time error. Got it? So let me come back and write the definition of compile time error. Let me first close this up. Such kind of errors arise before a Python program executes and compiles. Compiles means the execution starts. Okay. So this was about compile time error. I think later on you can write all the theories in your notebook, because I told you it is a very small chapter and whatever theories I am writing here is more than enough. So what is compile time error? Any error that arises as soon as you start executing your program and the program does not execute. Such errors are called compile time error. To be very simplistic, to be very specific, such errors or compile time errors will not allow your program to run, and such errors will be popped out as soon as you press F5, and program will not execute and program will not compile. Such errors are called compile time errors. Correct? Second type of error is different. Many a times when you are working with Python, program will first of all execute. But once you enter certain values, Python will give an error. Like we had lots of examples. If you remember, we were doing some list program. If you remember that, I think many a times we were writing loop, and many times if you remember that index was out of range. If you remember such kind of errors, that we were trying to delete some element which is not there in the list. We are trying to print the count of that element, or we are trying to print the index of any element which is not in the list. So that time Python used to throw error. If you remember, index out of range, xyz error. So all those errors which will pop out when the program is actually running. Okay, when the program is actually running, that is called runtime error. I hope you got a very clear difference between compile time error and runtime error. This will be an error which will pop up before the program even starts executing. Before the program compiles and executes, this error will come up. And mostly this kind of errors are because of syntax issues, or what you can say, neglection in using rules of Python, as we I think did in a few moments back. Fine. The second type of error will allow the program to run very properly, but such error will pop out because of some unnecessary inputs that our code may be having. As I told you that suppose I will just demonstrate in a while. Suppose I want to insert elements in a list, but list does not have space, or suppose I want to delete element from a list which is not present. Suppose I am trying to run a loop where proper indexing I have not followed. Such can be, you can say, examples of runtime error. We will give some example of this now also. So let us say such kind of errors or runtime errors arise during execution of a Python program while it is running. Simple. Let us go for some easy examples of runtime errors. Very simple. Very simple. Suppose I take, let us take the easiest example. Suppose A is equal to input. Simplest example I will show to you. Enter a number. And suppose here I am doing print A. I am running it. See, program has executed correctly. So there is no compile time error. Enter a number. I am entering string, error. This is a classic example of runtime error, and this is because of our invalid input. I hope you are getting my point. Okay, I repeat. I am running the program. Program has executed. So this is not a compile time error. Now if I enter some uneven input, such kind of error which arises during execution of the program is called runtime error. We can have some big examples also. Suppose I have example of list. Suppose I'm giving a small example. Okay, list 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever it is. I want to print index of list. Suppose I want to print L1 of 8. Okay, and obviously 8 index is not there, index out of range. Again, this is an example of runtime error. Okay, so I hope you have a very clear idea regarding what is compile time error, what is runtime error. Correct? Now exception, simply we can say, let us say an exception is an error that can be handled by a piece of code. And this is the only, you can say, programming part of this chapter. Okay, and this we will see in the next coming video module. Okay, how do we handle an error? Simple. What is the difference between exception and error? There is no difference. Only difference is, normally error comes in these cases: compile time error and runtime error. We normally are not able to handle errors that is thrown by Python. Any error, or whenever you can say, when we are having the capability of handling an error, that error has some synonym, and that synonym is exception. So technically there is no difference between error and exception. Error is thrown by Python. Error that can be handled from our side, that is called an exception. That we will see in you can say the next video module. How do we handle an error, or technically how do we handle an exception? Fine. So this is somewhat, you can say, more than 60% of the theory in this chapter. Now there are some internal points. First of all, before we revise the internal points, I want to, you can say, take up the things once again. Error: any faulty piece of code that we have written which will not allow our program to work smoothly, that is an error. Error is of three types: compile time error, runtime error, and exception. Let us revise compile time error. Any error that pops up before the execution of the program starts, or before the program starts compiling, such error is an compile time error. As you have understood by now that these errors generally arise because of syntax issues. We will see the types of compile time error in a while. Second type of error is runtime error, and as I demonstrated that such kind of errors pop up or arise after or during normal execution of the program. Means compile time error will not allow our program to run. There can be a 2-mark give difference between runtime error and compile time error. Okay, so please try to understand. Compile time error will not allow our program to even execute. Okay, it will give an error immediately. But runtime error will allow our program to execute. It will throw an error during execution of the program because of our invalid or improper input. Okay, there will be, you can say, many cases by which a runtime error can arise, but I think we all understand by some of the examples that I gave that how a runtime error will be there. Now the last point of this video, there are two types of compile time error. First is syntax error, and second is semantics error. Okay, semantics error has one more name, so that will be more understandable: logical error. I will give you example of both of them, and this will be the last point of this video. Next video, or whenever I record the next video, that will be totally dedicated on what is exception and how it is handled. Remember, exception is just an error, but it can be handled from our side. That is why it is called an exception in the first case. Runtime error, there are no types of runtime error. It is only the type of error which will arise during normal execution of the program. I will come to this with some small points in a while. Let me discuss about this. Compile time error are of two types. Syntax error, let me have one more syntax error. Let us say n equal to 16 for I in range 0, n, and let us say I want to print I. Obviously, you know that the program will not execute because there is a syntax error. We, instead of using round bracket, we have used a square bracket. Chalo, let us say we use this round brackets also, not an issue. So if I skip this, will it work? No. Again an example of syntax error. Okay, it is not even allowing our program to run. Okay, any error which pops up even before the program starts running, that is an, what you can say, compile time error. And in this case specifically, this is a syntax error. See, we can this example I did where it is this example that I did is actually a compile time error, but if I go for the subtypes, this is a syntax error. Okay, see, compile time error is actually of two types: syntax error and semantics error. So what I actually executed is a, you can say, compile time error, but its type is of syntax. It is a syntax type error. Second type of error, you can say it is little different. It is semantics error or logical error. Okay, I don't want to discuss much about this, otherwise you may get confused. But suppose I have given you one program to add two numbers. Okay, to add two numbers. See, this is a little different type of error. It has I don't think it has directly some sense to do with compile time error, but still, as per the textbook I am following, suppose I have given you a program to add two numbers, a equal to 16, b equal to 7, and my code is like this. So even though my program will work smoothly without any error, without any thing, but the logic of the program is entirely wrong. My program was for adding two numbers, I am subtracting two numbers. So even though the program is running, logic of the program is totally wrong. This is what we call semantics or logical error. Okay, I know you might be thinking on the spot that, sir, just now you told that compile time error does not allow the program to run, but here you are telling that semantics error program will run. That is why I gave you the hint at first place that I do not feel personally that semantics error should be a type of compile time error, but because I am following the textbook, I am following the same approach. Okay, no problem, you can write explanation of the same. See students, I am not making you write detailed theory regarding this, because I hope you are able to understand these small things, and you can see, suppose a short note is asked in a theory paper that write a short note on types of error, or chalo, write a short note on compile time error with example. Okay, so you can write any error which does not allow the program to execute and pops up before execution of the program starts will be a compile time error. There are two kinds of compile time error. One, syntax error. Error that arises because of incorrect syntax is called syntax error. Give some proper example. Second, semantics or logical error. Error that pops because of incorrect logic is called logical error. And give one example. As I told you, suppose our program is intending to multiply two numbers and I am dividing both numbers. That is a simple example of logical error. Now, suppose I talk about a 2-mark answer, write a short note on runtime error. So you can write any kind of error that pops up during normal execution of our Python program because of some invalid input can be called runtime error. And I think you can give n number of examples, like I gave for the list out of index, like I was taking input of number while I were entering character. That kind of examples can be taken. Okay, and error which can be handled is exception. We will see about this in the next coming video. Fine. Last point, I want to discuss some other points or something about you can say some examples about runtime error. Runtime error can cause because of certain reasons, and these reasons are not fixed. I am just specifying some values or some points from the textbook. Like runtime error can be occurring because of division by 0. You can try. If we are trying to divide any number by 0, suppose a equal to 8 and b equal to 0. Suppose I write a divide by b. So technically I am mentioning a divide by 8 divide by 0. So it will give an error. The division by 0 is not possible. This is again an example of what we call runtime error. Okay, so, and as the textbook is telling that using incompatible types, which I already told you, I was taking input of integer while I was entering string. So using improper types. I wanted input of numbers, but I am actually entering string. This is an example of runtime error. Then list index issues, list or tuple index issues. I hope you understand that I am trying to access an index which does not exist only. So this can be some of the examples of runtime error. Okay, the last definition that I want to do is debugging. Okay, I hope you must have understood what is the meaning. Bug means error. So process of removing errors from our program is called debugging. Simple as that. Okay, and it is us who has to remove each and every error from the program by seeing where and how that error is occurring. So I think this will complete, you can say, almost 60 to 65% of the chapter. Very small chapter. Majority of the chapter is based on errors, types of errors. Three types of errors are there: compile time error, runtime error, and exception. Compile time error, I already gave you detail that error that comes up before the normal execution of the program. There are two types of compile time error. Gave you the verbal theory of that. I hope you are very well able to cope up with it in the form of theory answers. Runtime error, I think very well known that error which will pop up during normal execution of the program will be runtime error. Some reasons are given by me. Even if you do not specify the reason, you can have your own examples. I hope you got it, that this kind of errors will arise because of improper inputs during our side or from our side during normal execution of the program. Error and exception does not have any difference. Any error that can be handled becomes an exception, and how to handle exception we will see in the next video. And the process of removing errors from our Python program can be called debugging. So that is almost you can say half portion of this small chapter, that is exception handling. We will most probably see the next video of how to handle exception programmatically, maybe in the coming week. Okay, so please go through this video and write down the theory in your notebook. That would be all from my side. Thank you and have